To the west, Venezuela lies open to the sea. Its long sandy shores and flat hinterland are no obstacles to the trade winds. During most of the year, they carry moisture across the Caribbean to the lands beyond, across the wasteland, across the inland fields, over 200 miles to the south, where the towering peaks of the Andes form a gigantic barrier. The clouds rise and meet the colder air above. For months of each year, it rains. Torrents of water become racing mountain streams, anonymous cascades, rushing downwards to become rivers. Their names, Motatan, Escalante, Catatumbo. Scores of rivers flowing to the north and east meet and merge in a great lake, 60 miles wide and well over 100 long, Lake Maracaibo. Here, for centuries, the fishermen have built their homes on stilts standing over the water. They are lake dwellers, bred on the lake and scorning the land. Life is simple, often hard, but the lake provides for its people and more. To the southwest, nature is dominant. Few people live here. Few have penetrated the dense jungle beyond the lake's shores. This is wild land, crossed by many rivers, dense, shady, mysterious. Life hides below the surface. Watches and waits in every shadow. Lurks concealed in every tree. Here, throughout the year, the land is hidden by water. To the north, the land is barren, its surface scorched by sun and scarred by the constant wind. Few people pass here except the Guajira Indians, solemn, colorful people, the descendants of the region's earliest inhabitants. For centuries, they've wandered across this dry land, driving their sheep and goats from place to place. They pause only briefly settling in the few spots where they can find food for their animals, and even more important, water. Their camps are makeshift shelters against wind and sun. It is the women who provide the essentials for living, modeling clay in traditional forms, adding color as contrast to their background. Today is little different from yesterday, or even from past centuries in this arid, windswept land. The same wind bore the Spanish colonists to these shores over 400 years ago. It was they who founded Maracaibo, a trading port halfway between lake and sea. Today, its waterfront is a bustling commercial center, a daily meeting place for people from around the lake. Their business? Buying and selling the produce of a tropical land. Behind the marketplace are clustered the dwellings of the old colonial city. The houses and plazas still reflect the early Spanish influence, but have an added character of their own. Through the centuries, this character was to harden, to be expressed in the bitter struggles of the colonial people for freedom. It was here that final independence was planned and won. But much of what the early colonists brought has endured: their language, their architecture, and their faith. Here on the lake's eastern shore lies Alta Gracia, remembered by Venezuelans as the scene of their final battle for independence. It looks out to Maracaibo, the traditional capital and commercial center of this region. And beyond lie other towns with their own special characteristics. To the west, Machiques, close to the Colombian border and center of a rich cattle-raising district. To the east, Cabimas, industrial center on the Bolivar coast. Santa Barbara, to the south, on the banks of the Escalante, the port for the Andes. These sailing craft carry milk and coffee, meat, fruit and vegetables down the river and across the lake to Maracaibo, 120 miles distant. And Gibraltar to the southeast, oldest of all, ravaged by time and pirates, now almost abandoned. But the land around has prospered. Watered by rivers and streams which flow from the Andes, it yields an abundance of bananas and sugarcane. Cattle raising has been the other activity besides agriculture, which until 40 years ago formed the basis of the region's economy. Then, from below the earth, came a new source of wealth: oil. Within a few years, Lake Maracaibo was to become one of the major oil-producing areas of the world. More than 12,000 wells drilled since the first discovery in 1914 yield over 60% of South America's total output. Its camps and workshops provide employment for 40,000 people. Its steel-studded surface is evidence of the vast extent of the oil fields beneath the lake and along its shores. Drilling continues practically non-stop. Each week, new wells are added to the total of those already in production. Gas, separated from the oil, provides a cheap and abundant supply of fuel for domestic and industrial use. Over 90% of all Venezuela's oil is sent overseas, finding its way by pipeline and tanker to more than 70 different countries, making a major contribution to the world's needs. Oil has transformed Venezuela's economy. Nowhere is the change more evident than in Maracaibo itself. As the tankers move out to the world's markets, ships of all nations unload their cargoes. They bring almost everything necessary to an expanding region. High-grade coffee, grown in the Andes, is stowed in the empty holds. The port handles more than 2.5 million tons of shipping each year. Its imports are valued at more than $300 million. The air lanes, too, are busy. Maracaibo's international airport receives visitors and freight from across the world.
6095, please dispatch urgently via Pan American following car.
Activity Frankfurt Maracaibo eröffnet, bitte verschiffet baldmöglich.
Despachar nuestro pedido cerámicas vía línea aeropostal a la mayor brevedad posible.
The great increase in international trade during the past 2 decades has stimulated local industry. Modern methods are replacing the old. Mechanization is helping the farmer to increase the yield from the land. Construction of schools and hospitals is meeting the needs of the present. All hands contribute in building for the future. A long-term program of public works is further transforming the region. Thousands of tons of silt have been dredged from the lake's mouth, opening it to the largest ocean-going vessels. The Pan-American highway from Caracas to Bogota brings contact with other parts of Venezuela. And the 5-mile bridge linking Maracaibo with the eastern shore is soon to become a reality. During the last 40 years, the population of Maracaibo has increased almost tenfold. Today, it is second in size to Caracas, Venezuela's capital. Steel and concrete have practically ousted mud walls in the old port. Broad avenues replace the goat tracks in the new suburbs. And the traditional delight in color finds expression in new forms. Progress is to have more than a material cast. New schools, colleges, technical institutes are preparing minds to consolidate the future. Today, confidence and prosperity are evident on all sides. The possibilities around the lake seem almost limitless. During almost 4 centuries, this region saw little material change. But many of the customs and traditions born in those years survive in the present. They lend substance to a new way of life. In a few years, the region has been transformed. Steel towers, symbol of the lake's newfound wealth, have given its people the chance to build for tomorrow.